Now, guys, before we get started on this week's podcast, I want to talk to you about our MoMENtum Mastermind. The Mastermind is our 12-month program for men who want to surround themselves with other committed men, all with similar interests, values, and goals. Whether you're looking to build or grow a profitable lifestyle business, develop financial freedom, get in the best shape of your life, or create an intimate and epic relationship, the Mastermind is perfect for those who are looking to have it all. We know that to create these results and this kind of lifestyle on your own can be super challenging. So join now for your free 30-day trial. Simply visit our website, www.themomentumlifestyle.com.au. Up the top, you'll see a section for programs. Click on the programs, you'll see our mastermind, and you can sign up there now for your free 30-day trial valued at $1,000. We look forward to seeing you part of the mastermind. Evan Spargo, Janoah van Kekem, welcome back for another episode.
Great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry I don't have the kit like you two boys. I'm the odd one out. I thought the beats by Dre were actually pretty hot on, but I've been told not.
They're not.
Thank you.
They are 2019, and I don't care that he sold those headsets for over $1 billion to Apple, because Evan and I are up to date we're here with the latest equipment. We look professional. You don't.
Like a pilot or a gamer.
All right. I'm trading these ones in, but I'm happy with the mouthpiece. All right, guys, today, goal theme 2023. And over the summer break, the three of us have put a lot more time into preparing and planning for 2023 than we have previously, which is awesome. And one of the things that crossed my mind, which I'm blown away by, but it makes heaps of sense, is the amount of effort that people put into planning for a holiday, but the lack of effort that people put into planning their lives. Fucking mind blown when you think about it. Does that resonate in your worlds when you think about the kind of greater world and people that you surround yourself with?
Well, I've never actually sat and thought about it in that way before. Anyway, as soon as you said it, I was like, even personally, looking at the effort that I put into a holiday and planning what I want to do and networking the contacts, and then looking at how in the past, there was no planning around life. Like I wouldn't plan anything around life. And knowing me, how I was a control freak as well. Like I would be planning my holidays and everything to the fucking degree, and the goal of the holiday was to have this experience. But there was no planning around the goal of my life is to have this experience. I never thought about it like that. Yeah.
Sparks, yourself?
Yeah, I think this year is the first year that I've actually really gotten excited, planned so diligently and comprehensively compared to ever. And it's such a great analogy looking back at when I'd planned travel. I'd froth at it, I'd be like excited, looking at every to the 10th degree of what we're going to do, where we're going to live, all this kind of stuff. And then I feel that same excitement this time around this year. And I see it collectively, especially in the MoMENtum and tribe groups, more so than ever. And then I see a lot of other people who are planning their holidays, but when I ask them, hey, what's your plan? What's your goals for next year? And I get a blank face. Wow, that's real for people.
It also really highlights a lot of people, and I used to live for the holiday, right? And that was what the highlight of my life was. And the rest of my life was just getting through. I was like, I just get through the rest so I can have this 2 weeks of the part that I enjoy out of my life. And so that's where all my energy and focus would go into, was the highlight holiday, and the rest was just the other 95% of my life was just going for the motions so I could enjoy the other 5%. And it's mind blowing when you start really looking at it going, well, what kind of life are we living?
Well, talking of planning and living a fucking belter of a life in 2023, Evan Spargo, goal and theme for 2023. And then how have you gone about breaking that down, and what has kind of come to light as you've planned your world for this year?
So I'll start with theme. I have two key themes. The first one is being discoverable, and the second one is around wealth. So I found that last year I discovered that I have a tumultuous relationship when it comes to wealth. And a lot of that comes down to self-worth. And I found like I struggled to put myself out there. And when you don't put yourself out there as a business owner, then how are you going to be discovered? How are you going to be found for business? How are you going to operate as a business? And so this year, I wanted to make a real intention around being discoverable and really building that self-worth, which in turn will help me build the wealth that I've always dreamed of. And so they're my two themes. And the goal is a financial goal. So 200,000 revenue is something that I want to aspire to this year. And the way that I've broken it down is a few things: adding more offerings to my services as a business. And another one is doing a lot of the mental side and emotional side, energetic side around money. And I'm working with several coaches this year around the self-worth piece firstly. And then the second piece will be around money energetics. And then I will be getting a business coach as well to really just have this full comprehensive support for me to move through and to work towards this wealth goal. And so what's been really different this year compared to the last couple of years is that I have a game plan, and I've set out different quarters, and each quarter there's specific targets that I want to reach. And it's not financial targets. I have an idea of what I want to be earning at specific times, but you have to kind of, as you guys know, in business, it's up and down. Some months you might have low periods, some months you might have come out of nowhere and you got huge revenue. So being prepared for that, as long as I'm solid within myself and grounded internally and doing the right things, well, then that all will come. So that's been the difference this year, and that's what I'm working towards.
You talk about, I think you used the word tumultuous. What does that mean for you, that word, and how has that shown up for you as an individual? And then with business being an extension of you as an individual, how's that shown up in business?
I've always been scared of money, anxious around money, avoidant around money. It's something that's uncomfortable for me. I hate looking at my bank account. I'll just, money will come in and I'll close my eyes and be like, oh, I hope it's all there. I hope everything's okay. That was me all my life. And yeah, I did really well last year, probably the best financial year I had. And I look at my bank account like, where the fuck has it gone? And so that was real telling sign. And then in the last few months, I hardly had any business come in or any income come in. And I'm just like, enough's enough. I've got to address this and I've got to look at it, take a deep breath and realize that, hey, I've got some money narratives that are running on in the background. I've adopted a few beliefs from my parents that aren't serving me right now. And that was the tumultuous relationship that I've had with money. And so now it's about, how do I improve that relationship with money, to be comfortable with it? This might sound esoteric, but to love it and to feel it and embrace it and be a magnet to it. And a lot of that will happen at the energetic level, and that's the work that I'm working towards.
If you were to describe your relationship with money in a kind of relationship context, let's say you were dating money, how would you describe it?
Yeah, for those who are familiar with the attachment styles, it'd be an anxious, avoidant relationship.
The double, anxious and avoidant.
Yeah, definitely. It's this one moment I want to get closer to it and love it and want to be loved by it, but then I freak out and run away from it because it's scary at the same time. And it's just it's not a fun way to live with it. And so that's the relationship at the moment. And I want to become more secure with it. I want to love it unconditionally. I want it to love me unconditionally. I want it to be able to hold it and build my capacity to hold it and feel relaxed and comfortable in my nervous system when I do have it and when it does come in. And this is a big lesson that I learned, was money is an energy, and it's the same thing as love. If we can receive love, if we can learn to receive what's coming for us, what we deserve, it corresponds in things like money as well. And so what I realized was I was blocking a lot of money because I was blocking a lot of love that people were trying to give me. And that was a big lesson I had to learn, was learning to receive in general. And so learning to receive the love, praise, or whatever that might be from people in my life, and to accept that. And that translates into being able to receive money and being comfortable because, hey, I deserve this. So that's been a big shift, and another intention for me this year is learning to receive.
One point you made there around money, which, what was it you said? It was something around the receiving of money, and that tying into like your mask and fem, which is also what I was looking at this as well. How do you feel that has played out in terms of, because I can totally relate to inability to receive, and there being some serious like wounding there going on. Has that played out into what you've noticed as well in terms of how some of the woundings may be blocking your ability to receive, and where that's come from?
The massive wound that I've had my whole life that's been running on the background is this belief around I'm not good enough and my lack of self-worth. And never more than last year did I see it play out, especially in a relationship that didn't work out, certain jobs, certain career moves, and then with money. It's like I realized that when I would ask people I guess I was charging them just for charging it. I felt really unsettled in my nervous system. It was almost like I'm bothering you by asking to charge you. Like this is going to put stress on you. And a lot of that comes from the wounding that I had growing up when, I'd ask money from my parents, or I would just ask for something, and their response would be of stress. The response would be of like, oh shit, it would give them discomfort. And I related that to, if I ask for people for their remuneration, for their money, for my services, I'm going to create discomfort in them. And it's like, well, I'm not worthy enough. I don't want to put discomfort on them. And that really affected my ability to charge and make money, especially last year. I found it coming up. The point of sale, when I was asking for money, I really would struggle to do it. And I'd want to kind of find a way out, or make it cheaper, or not ask for what I deserve. That's how I saw it play out.
Yeah, give a discount or something. Oh, actually, I can probably do it for this for you.
Big time.
What do you do now then to move through? So that's going to come up again, right? So you're going to put a price out, and you notice now you'll be a lot more hyper aware of the feeling coming in. And so what's the shift? Like, what does it look like? Have you sort of nailed that yet? Or is that a work in progress?
Massive shift in this area has been just seeing it as a win-win situation. I know now what the value that I can give someone, and I've put the prices out there. They're not moving. That's how it is. And I see it as they're willing to invest in themselves, which makes them happy, and they're going to benefit from the services and the co-creation that we're going to do together. And so I see it as a win-win rather than me just winning. It's a win-win situation. That's been the biggest shift. Just keep reminding myself that I'm going to give this person as much value that they've probably never experienced. And this is all I'm asking for it. And so I think it's a fair trade. And that's just, how can I go into every situation for a win-win? And that's been the biggest shift.
That's awesome, brother. And obviously we can attest, both of us, to the work that you do and how good you are, because we've spent the last 2 years with you. But as you're aware, and as anyone is aware, whether that's an intimate relationship, whether that's a business relationship, you can have everyone around you telling you that you're good, but it doesn't mean shit until there's a deep internal shift and you actually start to believe it. So, mate, really good. Is there anything, one of the things that we spoke about over kind of summer is thinking about behaviors that, and who do you need to become in order to bring this goal to fruition, and also getting offensive when it comes to interferences, things that potentially have played out in the past or things that you potentially see that might come up. When you think about who you need to become, the behaviors that you need to implement, and potentially interferences that have played a role or might play a role, is there anything that kind of comes to light for you there?
Yeah, big time. So something I'm working through at the moment is I've just had this massive fear of rejection and judgment my whole life. You know, we all want to be accepted, but it was really apparent for me growing up of just how painful rejection was. And the big piece was being praised for being a certain way. And so when I was a child, it was like if I was being perfect and nice and good and or whatever, then I'd be praised. And it's like, well, I feel accepted. So I need to be like this. Now that's served me up to a certain point. It's not serving me anymore. And so being conscious of those people pleasing, the fears of rejection and the judgment that come up, it's going to stop me from being discoverable. Because again, that's my key thing. So they're the tendencies that come up, this fear of rejection, and then that leads to I'm not enough, and then sitting in self-pity of like, oh, fuck, it's never going to work out. I'm never going to get over this. So being on the offense of this, it's something I'm working through at the moment is I have another kind of intention, and it's around being experimental and having fun with experimenting. So what I mean by that is just put things out there and see how it lands and be non-attached to the result. And know that every time I put something out there and experiment with it, I'm going to learn something, I'm growing, and it's essentially going to help someone. And so my mindset right now is, okay, put something out there, and as long as it touches maybe one person can connect with it, and you're sharing your truth, then that gives you peace. And what I've noticed is every time that I do that, I always face resistance. I always face inner doubt. I have these voices that's telling me you're an idiot. Why'd you put it out there? It pokes holes through everything I put out there. I've learned to accept that's a part of my process. I've learned that, hey, these voices are never going to go away. And so I've just learned to live with them and be like, hey, I'm noticing you. I hear you, but I'm going to sit through it. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to go with it. And eventually those voices go. And then I feel fucking good about myself because I've done something that I feared. And it's the greatest analogy I thought about the other day was it's like going through cold showers. You know it's going to be shit every time that you do it. You know it's not going to get any easier. But you do it anyway because you know the results of it. You feel so good after it. It's just like when you face your fears, when you know that you're going to get some backlash, you're going to get some inner voices, you're going to get doubt, just to learn to accept that, knowing that on the other side of that is the path of you moving forward towards your dreams, towards your vision, towards who you want to become. And so that's what I'm embodying at the moment, keeping at the forefront is, well, if I'm going to be a person who's going to be earning this and just being discoverable like this, what are the actions that I need to do? It's taking those actions and then allowing whatever comes up in the moment and sit with it, let it pass and continue down.
We'll get on to Jay in a sec, but just to kind of round out the process that you've become really good at, I've seen personally in terms of observing you, and probably a process that most people aren't aware of, is that you're very good now at inquiring about your thoughts, about your behaviors, about your beliefs, etc., as opposed to, I think, you know, if you were assessing where you might have been at previously, there was attachment and meaning that you gave these things. And you kind of spoke to it firsthand there, because it's in the attachment and the meaning that you give it that most of the suffering comes. Whereas you're now in a position to be the observer of your thoughts, be the observer of your feelings, as opposed to being them. Can you talk just a little bit about that? And then Jay, will get on to you for 2023.
Really well pointed out. Last year or in the past, I really got attached to everything that came up for me. I'm like, oh shit, I'm thinking about this. Oh my God, I'm thinking about this. And I judge myself for it. And now being able to detach from that and doing the work that I've done is to observe what comes up and understand that I don't need to believe every thought that comes up. And now I'm learning to differentiate between thoughts that come from like the monkey mind, the logical mind, versus the inner wisdom that arises from our true self. And that comes from a more of an inner knowing and a feeling. And so learning how to be in touch with the inner knowing and the feeling that arises, I now know what's truth. And I have to attest to plant medicine to helping me connect to that as well. So that was a big catalyst in my change for that. But what I noticed is the more that I would be the observer and become non-attached to my thoughts, it corresponded to my coaching. I'd notice when clients had their thoughts and when they attached, and it's also almost like it's a mirror, right? The more that I'd be coaching clients and noticing them, I'd be noticing in myself as well. And so it's like coaching is beautiful because not only am I helping others, but I'm helping myself at the same time, because as you know, people are a mirror. People who come into your life are a mirror for you. And that's kind of the shift that I've had, really connecting to what the inner truth and the knowing is, and differentiating between that and thoughts that are just going to drop in and drop by. A lot of the thoughts aren't actually ours. It's what we pick up. It's from past conditioning. And we have like an aura around, a 2-meter aura around us, and that can be infiltrated by people, by news, by anything then in the background. So being mindful of that as well.
Even though you've had a bit of a fuckery, last year, seeing and listening to you speak, the up level you've had, that just landed for me then listening to you talk for the last little bit. I'm like, yeah, like you're on. Like I think it was around the time of the retreat when you were just all in, and I was like, oh, here we go. Evan's in, he's on, and I'm seeing it now, which is fucking, just want to notice that, take note of that.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate that.
Agreed. Completely agreed. JVK, 2023 goal theme, intention, habits, behaviors, interferences, the works, brother. Give it to us. What do you got?
2023 theme for me is sex and money, which is two of the things that have challenged me the most over the last year. So I guess they obviously tie in: sex, money, love, wealth, receiving, giving, like that. And last year I was more focused on the wealth side of things. And I literally, like, love and sex was just, I kind of put it in the background, and almost, I feel a mistake I also made was almost separating them as energies. And I literally like put one just on the back burner and let it sort of play out and do its thing. And in terms of goals, the challenge that I've found with the money side of things, I've always found ways to call it in different ways. It's dropped in, like something I have an investment pop in from a company I was involved with, 5 years ago, and blah, blah. But the challenge for me has been around money just with my business. And so there's something tied in with, like, even with MoMENtum versus my business, I'm actually almost more confident in MoMENtum. I can see it happening, but there's something tied in with the success of my just me personal business and calling in consistent wealth around that, and sort of fear of success and potentially what it means for me to have to step up to that level of being that successful with that level of wealth and the responsibility that comes with that. And what I've also noticed is that the times, there's different levels to it, obviously, and there's a combination of energetic work I'm going to do, sexuality work I'm going to do. But what I actually noticed was the times when I really sat with it last year, the times when I felt when things were growing and the money started coming in, I could feel my nervous system feel really uncomfortable. And I did almost like, what do I do with it? And I didn't, at the time, I kind of thought it was just excitement of all the things coming in. And what I've actually realized, I'm so dysregulated to that level of earning. And so obviously with that level of discomfort, I would find a way to like, and I literally could see it sometimes where I'd have these things drop in, and next minute I'd feel this like, and then I feel them would drop out, and then I'd be like, and it's like, what the fuck just happened there? And so the discomfort is strong, and it's almost like a repelling of this next level of, and another piece of that, which I've noticed, which is more tied into shadow, where like repulsions for me are when I look at people who are like stingy, and tight and selfish, and sort of play this victim poor kind of game, or so I can't do this, but they'll let someone else sort of pay for it and blah blah, and take things from other people, and that repulses me. And what I actually have noticed is that when I'd sabotage myself. So I'd get to a point where I was the opposite of that. And because there was this deeper, dark need of shadow to have to experience that or embody that myself, like what happened to me the last sort of few months was I would sabotage myself and go beyond my means. I would try to make such a point of me not being tight or stingy or blah, blah, that I would overcommit to things that I knew I shouldn't actually be financially doing. Like it just wasn't within my realm. And what had happened is I'd overcommit to the point where I'd put myself in a position where, guess what? I'd have to be a little bit stingy. I'd have to start watching my money. I have to start saying, sorry, I can't do this, and put myself back in this position. And it was like, and then I'd feel like but I'm also been playing with the existential kink work of shadow and this deeper, darker kind of desire for that feeling and experience, which has been a really interesting thing. And I actually tested it and went really hard on that, like indulging and in going like, I'm just poor and I'm stingy and rah, and like feeling the excitement of being that kind of person and just like indulging in it. And literally I noticed that within that week, boom, 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 all this opportunity sort of dropped in. It was just weird. I was like, oh, so when I stopped resisting this thing that I put over there and other people that I find disgusting, and be like, you know what, I can just step into this and indulge in it just as a feeling, and it takes away my need to call it in another way. It's been a really wild ride with that. And so for me, the money work's going to come in a few different levels. So there's MD therapy, there's psilocybin session that we're doing. I'm also doing like some shadow work with both Lacey Phillips, and I'm going to do some Carolyn Elliott work as well. I'm going to do I think for me, and you've noticed as well, Blake, it's so deep rooted in me. Like I've done a lot of work on it last year, and I sort of started kicking the dust up a bit, but it's so deep in my subconscious. I've got to bypass this. So it's more than just cognitive therapy or stuff that I can do by myself, which I learned the hard way, and then tying that into with business sabotaging behaviors around like distraction, right? So this is another way that I have realized that characteristic of success and growth is the ability to stay on track and be consistent and focus, right? And I've noticed that a big weakness of mine is, the sort of shiny object of something new that might be a better, quicker way to do it. And so that's something that I've realized that over the last, year, I've gotten too easily distracted and taken myself off course, as opposed to focusing on, this program, this direction, and just nailing it and being consistent over a solid period of time. And so that also plays into success of a business. And then also there's a piece around like the fear of success and what stepping into that means, and the questioning of myself, like, am I actually good enough and worthy? Because I have these visions of what I want to be, and then I sit with and go, but do I actually think I'm good enough to do that? And I've actually sat with it. And I'm like, no, I don't sit there and be like, yeah, put me on that stage with these people of the caliber I want to be at. It's a party that goes, oh, I'm not sure if I can handle that just yet, right? So there's a level there that needs to be, and it's a combination of skills, like actual skill set, and then a deeper level of self-worth. And so that's the money piece. And the sex piece for me, sex, relationships, like even open to love. I used to, when I was younger, not saying it came effortlessly, but it was just in my nature of the way I operated. I would, call in and, fun and games and partners and be a bit cheeky and all the rest. And the last couple of years have been the most challenging, my ability to call in aligned women and partners. And I think there are two pieces to this. One is that I am genuinely like scared of like fully being like seen and opening up to whatever that's gonna be. And the other piece is similar to yours. It was around the rejection piece, right? So what I used to always do was, the reason why things seemed to come easy to me, because they were most of the opportunities I would take were the ones that came to me, and I wasn't overly a goal getter and a chaser. And so when that didn't play out as much, I realized that I wasn't going out and making shit happen as much. I mean, like, why isn't things just dropping in anymore? But I still wasn't willing to step out and make it happen more out of the fear of the rejection if I really, really had a crack. So I was like, if I really have a crack and it doesn't play out, then what? And so it's been a really interesting like piece around. I mean, part of it's been really good for me to also spend a lot of time by myself. And there's also a big fear for me that calling someone in meant I lost my freedom, because I've seen so many examples in my friend group and people that when they date someone,
most blokes lose their freedom,
right?
is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, right. And so I've almost had this block up where, you know, a girl sort of would come in. I would find a way to, once they came in, I'd find a way to like repel them without even realizing what I'm doing, because I was like, if they're potentially someone that I would consider, you know, dating, and I've realized that I'm shit scared of losing my own power and freedom. So I've got to start. I've acknowledged that. So now it's the process of redefining what calling in someone actually means. And then also I'm working with some Layla Martin stuff around sexuality, and I've done a few things before. We've done some work with, you know, retention and all that kind of stuff, but it's time to go next level and step into more of this sort of dark sexuality, and letting that what's the word for it, deviate, come back out again, and no shame around the dark side, and trying to be the nice guy that everyone likes and everyone feels safe with. It's like bringing a bit of that back into who I am. So they're the two pieces for me that are the focus, which I'm actually really fucking excited about.
You're really diving into probably the three most taboo areas of society in terms of money, sex, and power. And as you said before, on a conscious level, or even modalities that we use that just kind of, you know, and they're all super valuable modalities, but, you know, whether that's, you know, energetic work, like you've done a lot of that work. So the conditioning and the programming runs so much deeper, to the point where obviously we're doing some plant medicine in a couple of weeks. And it's bizarre, the conditioning around money, sex, and power. And obviously in our environments, whether it's, you know, tribe MoMENtum, the conversations that we have, it's pretty open dialogue around our goals. But even if Evan listens back to this podcast, when he openly spoke about his financial goal, he tightened up a little bit. So it's interesting that we have this, like it's just a number, but yet we give it the association and the meaning and the stigma that comes with talking openly about money, like money's dirty or something like that. Sex is dirty. Like, it's bizarre. When you've sat with those things over the last 12 months, because you have dipped your toe in different modalities in order to work through it as best you can, what conditioning and programming have you felt kind of come up?
So with money's also sort of been tied into sex. To power. And so what's come up with me with that is that it is something that people other than us have. And I mean, it's never us, it's them. And also they're not the kind of people that we want to be around, right? There's always been this, and then I've noticed that this is the story. It's this family conditioning for me. And what I've understood ancestral, like it runs deep of this. We are the, you know, poor us, but of course they can afford it because blah, 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 blah. And it's always been like this bit of a negative connotation towards those and everyone in power must have done it in a negative way or an unhealthy way, right? This is thing of like, everyone who's rich, they must be fucking dodgy, right? And that's some stories that have come up for me. And it's like, and then for me to be like, well, I want to be a trustworthy guy who's within integrity and not dodgy, right? Of course, I'm going to fucking block that shit if that's what I think it means to be successful and wealthy. So that's a big pattern and story that's come up for me around that. And then the other with the sex piece of things is looking at the guys who are like because to be honest, I sort of embody a part of this, like a bit more of the cheeky, I won't use the word fuck boy, but a bit more deviant, a bit more open about having a crack and trying and wanting to be a bit naughty and dirty. That is a disgusting thing to be, that kind of person. And this is a societal thing where, and even for women as well, like wouldn't admit to actually liking the fact that this guy's a bit of a bit dirty, a bit cheeky. And because it's like we're told that it's it's the respect, it's always about respect and blah blah. And it's like, well, maybe sometimes they just want to be fucking strangled and what it like, even saying that, right? It's okay. Who says that being fucking tied up in a gimp mask and spanked is fucking taboo? Religion and society tell us that, right?
I love doing it every Monday night.
I'm gonna put my earplugs in when the gimp mask comes out in Blake's room down there. He's invited me once. I'm like, maybe next year when I delve into it. And even that, right? So there's like a bit of a first, like, admitting that maybe I want to try. Like, I don't think the gimp mask is high on my list, but it might get there one day.
Mate,
but
never say never. Never say never.
Being more open to the discussion around like some darker, dirtier things that I actually want to try and explore, and that it's actually naturally okay for me to have a desire for these things and to be want to be a bit dirty and cheeky and naughty and a dirtbag again every now. I'm like, oh, this is actually an okay energy to embody and can be an attractive energy for the right matching person, not this sort of stale missionary fucking, which isn't my nature, but I've sort of almost tried to step into that. So that's what's really come up for me as well with the sex part of things.
And even just quickly as a reflection before Spargs asks any questions, and I'm not sure if you realize kind of what you just said before as well, but your association to what power means sounds quite unclean as well, which is food for thought. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but the way that your association to power, it comes with negative connotations. So in terms of stepping into your power, it's kind of hard to do that when the association to power is what you've got as well.
Yeah, it's almost all the things that these three things that I want, I have a negative and a projecting judgmental attitude towards all the people that are doing and getting what I want. So there's some, but it's there, right? We can it's starting to rise its head up so we can start seeing it. So yeah, there's some, it's going to be a juicy 12 months.
Couple of things there. I really enjoyed listening to the journey that you've been on, and it sounds like being overseas is giving you a chance to reflect. And I've noticed that you strike me as a guy who always wants to go, but I've seen a different approach where you've been able to go, okay, I'm going, but hey, something's a little bit off. I'm going to pause. I'm going to look around, see the resources. Where's this coming from? Get a bit of a deeper layer, then go again. And I'm seeing this more often from you. And it's so great because the reflections are really, I resonate with a lot of the reflections. And one of them that you talked about was this fear of success, fear of what you can be. And then you talked about learning about these dark desires that you have within you. And I'm wondering, how does accepting and integrating these dark desires help you work towards this or move through this fear of success? Because it sounds like they're the key ingredients that perhaps need to be awakened.
So when I look at, if I want to picture someone who is successful and just owns their interest in these kind of sexual things or doing this, or is able to talk about it, it's a total level of confidence, and it's like acceptance of self without giving a fuck what anyone else thinks, and almost like a level of and this is the negative part that comes to it there often, is almost, I look at it as a level of like almost arrogance, which, it's like, if they don't give a fuck, like, oh, you're arrogant, you don't give a fuck about what someone thinks about you. If you want to try this, that's my default, is to go, arrogant motherfucker, like, dirtbag, blah, blah, this negative judgment to that. And and so it's pretty clear that if that's what my initial gut to think is, that it's there. And for me, success, it ties in. Like when I look at success, it's not just financial. Success is someone who like has it all, right? You know, they've got the fucking grit and they can fight. They can fucking do this, you know, cool random shit, not be scared about it. They can call in money, but also what that means is they have to put themselves out there and be fully seen in every way, right? Whether it's sexually or whether it's, you know, if you're successful, people are going to look up to you and you have to step up and you can't hide anymore. So they both tie into this thing of like being seen and not being able to hide anymore and play small. Because if you fully step into your sexuality and fully stepping into your power and success, like there's no hiding anymore. And I feel that is a piece of it there, around like me fully being like seen by everyone in these different areas and being okay with that.
Yeah, that's really hit me. And you mentioned earlier about when you were talking about the sex piece, it's being fully seen in all of who you are. And you're talking about that as a block, and now you've likened that to success. I could imagine a lot of people who would be listening to this would connect to the fact, oh shit, I need to allow myself to be fully seen if I want to be successful. So I'm just curious around, now that you have this great awareness and this intention, okay, to be fully seen and allow myself to be like that, how do you intend to work through that and honor that for yourself?
Is that with vegetables that you do that, Janoah? Like mushrooms or something like that?
It'll be a combination of bypass. Like again, it's going to have to be some like I'll have to do I have to book in for my second mushroom session now to delve into the section. Because I mean, they got to tie in, but then also like simple daily like practices, like simple things like with the sexuality piece. I'm going to do this course and I'm gonna have to probably start trying some shit that's a bit uncomfortable, or even if it's like making a habit of like once a day, something so simple, approaching a stranger, whether it's, you know, a guy or a girl, just little things like that are going to be the kicker as well. So because the mistake I think I've made and people make in the past is, it's all well and good through the weekend retreat and the deep journey, but what am I doing every day? So I'm gonna have to find little ways to put myself out of the comfort. It might even be admitting to someone, or when I speak to a girl, saying something a bit more dirty and dark than I would, instead of being the nice, comfortable, safe guy. Practicing pushing the edge of discomfort is going to have to be a part of it as well for me daily. So that's going to tie in. So it's, yes, the deeper medicine work, but also like, what are the little daily, and again, not getting too far ahead of myself, the little daily nudges, weekly nudges where I can put myself in the discomfort every now and then as well. So that's where I think they'll both tie in.
Great share. There's common themes amongst the three of us this year, which is exciting. And no doubt we'll all have our own stuff that comes up. And I think probably, what do you reckon, Spargs, in Tribe, there's probably 5 or 6 similar themes. Obviously, Shani has similar themes to both Janoah and I in terms of her themes. And I'd say in MoMENtum, there's another, you know, half a dozen at least. So there's probably 12 to 15 at least of us that are on a similar page and a similar path this year. So it's exciting to see our own unique paths, albeit the common themes kind of around wealth and abundance. And that's my theme for this year, is wealth and abundance as well. And yeah, I mean, Janoah and I have kind of had very different relationships with money in the past, and probably starting to bridge the gap a bit. I feel a lot more confident with money, wealth, and abundance than I've ever felt, which is really cool. But for those that don't know, I think 4 years, maybe even coming up to 5 years now. 5 years ago, in June, actually, that I filed for bankruptcy. And that really set me down a path of understanding myself, but also understanding myself when it came to money in my relationship there. And it's been a really interesting journey, and one where probably over the last, I'd say 4 to 5 months, I've started to feel like I've got a good relationship with money. And albeit I'm always a work in progress, I'm starting to kind of find it fun, which is the first time in my life that I've ever found money fun. And yeah, as a business owner, you've got your ups and downs and it's not all just fun. But to be able to openly kind of say that is awesome. And then to obviously, spend 6 weeks in Thailand on the most epic, holiday of our life, while making money, while putting a lot of money towards this event that I've got in Croatia mid-year, it feels good. And similar to you boys, I've never spent so much time really thinking about the year ahead. And I mean, in saying that, you can put a lot of thought into it and then you get fucking hit by life and, things change. And there's been a couple of subtle changes already, but to really come in with a strong plan that has a little bit of flexibility for stuff that comes up. And, for me, one of the things that has really stood out that is a blocker for me when it comes to wealth and abundance and my financial goal this year is really, and Spargo, you brought this up, Janoah's brought this up, and, people that know me well have brought this up, is probably the way that I've gone about my message over the last couple of years. And that, albeit polarizing, which polarizing messages have their pros and cons, really has blocked me, I think, from a business point of view in terms of attracting new business in. So there's some deep diving for me to do around messaging from a skill set point of view in terms of how do I get better at messaging, but also, and probably more importantly, from a mindset point of view. Why have I gone about my messaging like this in the past? And why have I, really probably unnecessarily created friction and tension and just unnecessary behavior when I really could have created connections, unity, and, at the core of me and the core of all of us is really that connection for love, unity. And I've done everything I can to kind of avoid that. So it's really I've got a journey very soon. In fact, by the time this is released, I will have done my journey, or at least the first one. And that's a real focus for me to go in and make sense of what is at the core of this piece that is having a negative impact on business, connections, and wealth and abundance.
So when you said there, which was the first time I ever heard you say it, was like money is fun. And it was a different like lightness in you and money, which I've never seen before. So just to get an understanding, so what was money for you before that? How would you describe, like, if now your relationship and ideal relationship money is fun, what was it before? And also, what are the different behaviors that are aligned with each? Like, what was it? What were the behaviors that align with that? With fun, what are the behaviors aligned with money and being a fun relationship with it?
Similar to Spargs, it was definitely, if I was in a relationship with money, it would have been anxious avoidant, guaranteed. The avoidance came in not wanting to check my account. The avoidance came in not following up bills on time. The avoidance came in not billing people on time. And then the anxiety came in when I did have a lot of money. And, previously in my fitness business, it was quite a profitable business, albeit I absolutely fucked it all up against the wall. But there was a lot of money that came in at different times, and that would just blow, my window of tolerance out, similar to kind of a theme that you've got, in which my nervous system couldn't regulate and hold big sums of money. And, I guess a theme that all three of us are really interested in, and, one that I've found really interesting in certain, I guess, business coaches is wealth energetics. And it's not, at least to kind of, from my experience, it's not something that your average business coach talks about. But for me now, if I'm interested in working with someone, I want them to have an understanding of it. And the reason that becomes so significant is if you can't regulate your nervous system around money, around wealth, around holding it, around even releasing it, then you're going to find a way to fuck up your own financial success. So, a big part for me this year, and having done breathwork and been a certified breathwork coach and obviously hypnosis now, is being able to hold depth and hold more in all capacities of that. So whether that's hold more money, hold more pain, hold more pleasure, hold more people, being able to hold more and expand my nervous system. And, no one knows this except for Spargs in this moment. in Q2 in Tribe, we're going to go deep into this in terms of nervous system work and trauma work, so people can hold more. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're surrounded by a lot of very savvy people. Cool. You can be fucking good at what you do. But if you're not comfortable with being seen, if you're not comfortable with holding money, if you've got an anxious avoidant relationship with it, you're going to continue the cycles. And I think it was Sparks. Yeah, Sparks spoke about this before. A common theme for me, you know, in my previous business was going from, you know, 100 to 200 to $330,000 over the course of that 3 years in 6 weeks. But my bank account looked the same. That shouldn't be how it works. And I know a lot of people that have this trade of like, it doesn't matter how much money they make, the bank account doesn't seem to change. So there's a lot of patterning. And, you know, I guess to where I'm at now is when money comes in, my nervous system feels pretty neutral. And that's good for me, you know, in terms of, and you know, in terms of my one-on-one coaching, it's not cheap. So there's some good money that comes in. And instead of me going like anxiously thinking, you know, how do I have to spend it? What do I have to do with it? It's just like, it's just chilled. And, you know, even coming back to kind of Sparks before, and I'm hoping he listens back to it, just feeling his slight tightness in his body when he spoke about that 200K, that these little intricate details and the attunement to our own sense of self become really valuable in highlighting and bringing to light the things that aren't quite right or the things that we're not quite comfortable. And even when I'm having a conversation with Sparks, with you, I'm paying attention, in case you're not, to where you might tighten up so that I can reflect that back to you and potentially give you insight into something that you might explore. So there's so much to be said for obviously our mindset, and we talk a lot about that, but there's also a lot to be said around really feeling into your body as to what feels tight, what feels constrictive, where does your throat dry out? And that's, you know, for someone who really lacked a lot of awareness, I'm really starting to be quite, I guess, proud of my level of attunement to self and use that as a compass and a barometer to where I need to go next.
Yeah, absolutely love that. It's funny how you notice those things. And when you mentioned it, after I claimed what I wanted, I had probably the voices came back for me for the last literally 20 minutes. I'm present with you guys, but I've got this voice in my head saying, why the fuck did you claim that? Why'd you put it out in the world? Oh my God, what are people going to think about you now? Holy shit, what happens if you don't do it? All these thoughts just came up. So it is real and it is a tension point, but isn't it great to just be aware of it and have someone like yourself point it out? But at least I can make fun of it now. Whereas in the past, last year, I'd just be like, oh, fuck, I'm an idiot. Like, oh shit, I should have kept quiet. So I love the fact that being aware of where that tension is and to be able to dive within it. And a tension point that I really got from you, Blake, is, you know, the piece around the messaging, the piece around a lot of commentating on what's happening and wanting to shift into more of a solutioning, connecting. And I think you're fully aware of what the effects may be on an external level. So more connection, more business coming in, and ease or whatever, an energy for people to come in. I'm just wondering, what is the impact of working through this going to have on you on a personal level?
Janoah knows the answer to this. And we all have stuff that sits in the back and circulates, you know, whether that's a limiting belief, whether that's a form of trauma, whether that's, you know, what happened in our last relationship, whatever it might be. And the two pieces that take up a lot of bandwidth for me, one revolves around friendships. And I did, as you guys know, a shit ton of work around connection and friendships last year. And I moved through a hell of a lot. And there's still a core wound that I haven't got to the bottom of. Hence the reason I'm diving into plant medicine, because I can't get to the core of it. And that sits with me most days. And and I probably, to be honest, haven't really even claimed this part. It chews me up a lot more than is necessary. So that friendship bit, which the best way that I can describe it, and God, I hope I can get to the bottom of it after this journey, is it feels the mix of like rejection, abandonment, bitterness, fuck you energy, a bit of anxiety, Like it's just this clusterfuck of those kind of, and on a logical level, you know, in some of these friendships that I have, some have dissolved and some we're just in different states, in different stages of our life. I know on a logical level, nothing's wrong. Nothing happened. There's nothing wrong. We're all good. But on this deep level, well beyond what I've been able to access over the last 12 months as I've explored this, I haven't been able to get to the bottom of it. And it just takes up energy that I'd like to put into something else. So that's the first one. The second one that is just as consuming is the piece around mainstream media, big pharma, and government. And I've got my opinions and I've made them very loud, too loud at times and unnecessarily polarizing at times. And, you know, to your point, you know, we all gave each other some feedback last year, and yours was probably more succinct than anyone's, was the messaging that has come with that has come with a lot of darkness and like, hey, these organizations are fucking you over, but like, good luck. Do you know what I mean? And again, whether you agree with me or not, that's not the point. What I haven't done in the past is provide solutions. And what I've been very good at is speaking for what I stand against. Cool. Awesome. There's a place and a time for that. But I haven't done enough of speaking to what I stand for. And those are just the slight shifts. They're not even slight, they're massive shifts in messaging that I'm looking forward to kind of stepping into more this year.
What would you say like has been, because I know you do a lot of work, what would you say has been the most like impactful for you over the last 12 months in getting into this to where you are now, which has obviously been a fair shift? Because obviously I'd say the three of us, you're the one who you just like go in and like, I'm doing this and doing that and doing that. And in terms of realms of modalities, if you were to choose, like this is just more of an interesting one, your top, like these are the two that I'm always going to do, what are they? What moves the dial for you and why? What is it about that?
You know, and Evan, as he gets to know me better, will know that when I'm pulling on an eyelash, that I'm getting quite emotional. The reason for that is that Shani, I try everything, as you guys know, but Shani would be number one most impactful over the last 12 months. And mainly because it's just, there's such a, I don't get my words out. I don't know how people cry and speak at the same time.
I don't know either.
It's an amazing skill. There's such a purity in her love that just heals things that, you know, like coaching or medicine can't do. And it's probably, well, not even probably, it's something that I've always, I mean, everyone wants it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's just something that I've always wanted. And, you know, I've obviously been in fortunate positions where I've been in some really nurturing and loving relationships, but, you know, nothing can compare to the purity of the love that she gives me. So that would be number one. And then, you know, beyond that, you know, despite me doing mainly mindset work, albeit a lot shifted over the last 6 months, going and studying, you know, hypnosis and going and studying breath work, probably the energy work. You know, I worked with Pixie, which, you know, she works with fucking everyone in our lives, which is awesome because she's so good. But being able to work on an energetic level with her over the last, you know, 12 months has been amazing. And obviously, I think if you stick with a modality long enough and you're consistent with it, you're going to get amazing results. And she's amazing at what she does. And she's had such a profound impact on so many people that it'd be energy work. And for someone who, you know, previously, and again, I'm still a work in progress, spent all his time in his head, to be able to really do the energy work and to really, you know, be confident in the level of attunement that I do have to my body and not just my head, feels really good. It feels really good to be able to, you know, be in a healthy position in terms of understanding my mind, and also be in a really good position where I now understand my body, and there's a deeper level of intuition, and to be able to use that as a guide and a compass as well. So that was a very long-winded way of answering your question, but I think I answered it.
That was probably the best answer I could have had. And, you know, and living with you guys as well, I see what you're talking about. Like it's, if I look at, you know, relationships are around, you know, the network, seeing the way you and Shani are to each other. And like she messaged the other day asking, but she's like, oh, you know, asking about obviously with the course, the ways where she limits herself and faults. And I was like, I had to think long and hard about where that magic human really like faults. Like she's a mate, like she's an absolute legend, and she's become one of my best mates as well. And seeing the way you guys are with each other is something to be so fucking proud of. And it's also inspiring to look at the style of relationship I want. I've got it in the room next to me, you know. So when you guys, you know, hear me knock, I just want to come in and, you know, cuddle and feel the energies.
As long as I haven't got the GIMP mask on when you want to come in for your cuddle, mate, that's fine. But that's it's you know, it's such an amazing it's an amazing thing. And Spargs and I've had this conversation, and Rory and I've had this conversation. I've had it with a few boys. They're like, dude, do you know where we can find another Shani Timms? Like, I'd love for all my good mates. I'd love for all my good mates to be able to find a Shani Timms, you know, like she's, I'd love everyone to experience what I've experienced over the last 18 months. And it's, yeah. And I know we kind of laugh about it, and, you know, maybe it's slightly toxic at times, but, you know, from a masculinity point of view, but there's not many relationships that I look at, and, you know, we kind of laugh about, you know, you've been single at times, but you look at it and go, you look at the landscape, and we mean this respectfully. There's not that many relationships that you'd want to be in, you know, and everyone's doing their best. We totally get that, and we're mindful of that. But like, if I looked around, I'd be like, oh, you know what? I might just stay single. And then, you know, I get, you know, this absolute goddess, you know, who just, I mean, fuck, everything about her makes life better. Everything about her, you know, whether it's me or just even watching her and the impact that she has on other people. Like, I love just, or even just, you know, as you and I laugh, like we might be driving around in town and we see her driving and just like bopping around and having the time of her life. Like, it's just an energy that everyone needs more of in their life. And it's, and, you know, we kind of talk a little bit about our own victim behaviors at time. And, you know, for someone like her, you know, who also went through her own kind of challenges and struggles, and, you know, her family's amazing, and that, but they split, and, you know, she had a bit of a rough trot with blokes, to still be as heart-centered as she is, despite going through all that. Again, that in itself is amazing, and something that, you know, I look at my victim behavior at times and I'm like, fuck, like, how good is she? She's, you know, been through the ringer at different stages with different challenges, and here she is still, you know, as heart-centered as ever. So that's definitely something that I aspire to be able to kind of get back to, which is a big part of, you know, my goal this year as well.
Beautiful words. Something that I really want to acknowledge right now is the way that you speak of her, your partner, the impact that she's had on you. I don't know if you notice that this is the number one thing for you, rather than all the modalities that you've entered, plant medicine, all this kind of stuff, right? You're the king of that. You've done everything, but yet it's this one person. And the theme here is connection. We can't beat connection. At the end of the day, we can try all the fucking therapies and all this kind of shit, but it's really the connection that we yearn for that really has the biggest impact on us. And it comes back to love, being loved, being able to express love, feel love unconditionally, has the biggest and greatest impact on all of who we are. And you can see why loneliness is one of the biggest factors when it comes to mental health and it comes to suicide and that kind of thing. So I think it's a really important lesson for everyone who's listening is connection. How are you connecting in your life right now? And just to remember that there are people in your lives who love you, and express that, cherish that.
even to kind of flip that on its head a little bit, Spargs, and a common theme amongst all three of us is like, you know, in different ways we've blocked and we are blocking connection from fear of rejection. Do you know what I mean? Like we're all, if I look at a lot of my behavior, and Janoah's known me for over 10 years, so much of my shit has blocked connection, so much of it. And I spent not, you know, hence the reason I spent 9 months working on it last year, and I've still got more work to do. And, you know, no doubt you're blocking connections in some way. And Janoah's, you know, openly admitted, you know, ways in which he's blocking connection for himself. So, you know, being able to, you know, as hippie and spiritual as it might sound, like when I think about my relationship with Shani, I'm always thinking about ways that I can purify my love for her, you know, and what comes between that, and how can I clean that up, and, you know, what does that look like to keep loving her deeper than what I already do. Well, that I did not expect that, but
good. I'm glad
we're here to talk about business, and we ended up somewhere different. Guys, brilliant insights into what it is for 2023, and also grateful for the environments that we have that, 1, hold us accountable, 2, reflect back to us, 3, support us, and 4, are on the journey with us. You know, like I think someone asked me in an Instagram poll, how many accountability partners have you got? And I was like, I've got over 50. And, you know, through Tribe and MoMENtum and, you know, our business coaches and whatever else, like just to be able to have open dialogue about our goals, what's coming up, what's working, what's not, like it doesn't get any better. And, you know, Jay and I talk about this regularly in MoMENtum of like, I can't remember the exact statistics. My brain's gone offline, but it's, you know, something like 800% more likely to hit your goals if you've got one accountability partner, and 1200% more likely if you've got a group. Like we're 1200% more likely than the average person to hit our goals this year, which is phenomenal, and so much to learn from each other as well, which I just love the environment that we're in. So boys, appreciate your time.
You too, Kelly.
Awesome.